Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our junior English study in our MyPerspectives volume. We're on page 176, Emily Dickinson's little poem, There is a Solitude of Space. Now, our study of Dickinson, especially her biography, has already informed us that she really was kind of the queen of solitude. She understood the power of solitude, she understood the magnitude and the joy of solitude, as well as obviously at times probably the challenges of solitude. So she's going to tell us a little bit about what she will call finite infinity. Now, let's just put this in our notes already at 2B. As we've seen so many times, Dickinson is the quintessential master of the paradox. She loves to play the paradoxical game, two things that don't fit together. There's a solitude of space. There is a solitude of space, a solitude of sea, a solitude of death, but these society shall be compared with the profounder sight, that polar privacy, a soul admitted to itself, finite infinity. Now there's no question that sound here matters when you read this poem. And notice, hear all those E sounds, right, as you read this. And of course, you can even emphasize those sounds as you read, and it's kind of fun to do it between B and infinity. But the brilliance of this poem is to notice how she moves from space to sea to death to infinity. And I think she's doing so much in this little poem, as we've said so regularly about Dickinson poems. So much is going on. First of all, she will begin with the idea of the solitude, the trinity of the solitudes. Space, we look up at the night sky. We think of Whitman's, I heard the learned astronomer, when I heard the learned astronomer, right? We look up at the night sky, we see space. And it just kind of blows our mind, right? So there's this solitude of space. The night sky is quiet, right? There is a solitude of sea. Of course, Dickinson was able to, at times, be very close to the sea, and so that also will be that, just the prodigious view of the sea, and just how far out it goes, right? And it brings a certain kind of solitude. And then, of course, the third of her three here, the solitude of death. The finality of death. The fact that one moment the individual that we care about is here and then gone. And of course, as we've said in our biographic information regarding Dickinson, she lost some people close to her, and it had a profound effect on her thinking about death and dying. Notice these three produce solitude. Now, the actual definition of solitude is something that Dickinson kind of assumes a general understanding of solitude. That is to say, not just to be alone, but to be alone with some, maybe we would say, intentionality behind it. In other words, no one's going to be interrupting, okay? But then she will go to the fourth line with the word society. And we've seen her use of this word a number of times in other poems. But these, society shall be compared with that profounder sight, that polar privacy. Her use of the word polar here is remarkable, and of course stacking the two P sounds together is remarkable. And then she'll give it a soul admitted to itself. Now, this will take us back, right, to a couple of poems ago when we were messing around with the soul selects her own society and the soul unto itself. So here we are back again. This idea of when finally you can feel comfortable with yourself. You can be alone with yourself. And solitude is enriching. It's not deteriorating. At that moment, what do you have? We have a certain kind of polar privacy that she calls finite infinity. Now, there's a whole lot to be thought about there. Much of it I'm not even going to talk about with you. I'm going to let you try and figure out what you think she means by something that's limited and yet eternal. Something that's finite and yet somehow goes on forever. And in some ways, we immediately start to think of our study of Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn, that poem we've exegeted at learnstrung.net. You can run that to ground. Beauty is truth, truth, beauty, that's all you know on earth and all you need to know. This idea of somehow in the same moment, art has this capacity to be both finite, you can reach it, reach out, touch it, feel it, etc., but somehow as well infinite, and it just seems to go on and on forever. We immediately, of course, think of our Plato's Republic, and especially books 6 and 7, and the idea of the cave allegory and our two-box theory, as we've talked about it elsewhere. Let's jump to 2A really quickly. What for you is the major message of a poem like this? To be alive with the mind and the soul, and to be able to be comfortable with yourself, is somehow the ability to tap both the finite and the infinite at the same time. To comprehend eternity in each moment is freedom, is another way to say it at 2A. At 2B, I love the fact that she will capitalize in the poem itself, other than first letter capitalization of a line. Notice the word death and the word infinity. Again, as we've said before, all of these are very intentional for Dickinson. Why she would do it, in many ways, is left to us in speculation. At 3A, where are we going to go? Well, I mentioned Keats's Ode on a Grecian, and I think it's a great companion read, as well as Plato's Republic 6-7, and we've given full lectures on all of that elsewhere at learnstrong.net. Finally, at 3B, when was the last time that you would argue that you were engaged in finite infinity? Talk to musicians who are performing. They are performing, and in the moment of their performance, they know that it's only going to last so long. But in the moment of their performing, time somehow seems to go away. Ask any musician, and they will tell you, it's an amazing thing how I was performing, but it seemed literally like a few seconds. I've even known musicians who will say after performances they can't really remember much of the performance. It was almost like an out-of-body experience. Well, I think, this is a beautiful idea, and athletes know it well, dancers know it well, musicians know it well. I'm wondering the last time that you knew it well. I'm certainly hopeful that reading Emily Dickinson's poems is doing that to you. Thank you.